And there's no support.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people go to these centers and they have no support. People don't actually understand what integration is. And like we've said it so many times on here, we're talking about integration. In this episode, you'll discover how emotional regulation is not just a mental skill, but a full body, brain-wide process that can be trained and transformed. Together with NSI educator Matt Bush, we'll unpack what true regulation looks like, why integration across the brain and body is essential, what disrupts this connection, and how do we rebuild it. Welcome to Trauma Rewired, the podcast that teaches you about your nervous system, how trauma lives in the body, and what you can do to heal. I'm your co-host, Jennifer Wallace. I'm a neurosomatic psychedelic preparation and integration guide, and I bring your nervous system into your peak somatic experiences. I'm also one of the educators at the Neurosomatic Intelligence Coaching Certification.
And I'm your co-host, Elizabeth Kristoff, founder of BrainBase.com, an online community where we use applied neurology and somatics for resilience, personal growth, and behavior change. And I'm also the founder of the Neurosomatic Intelligence Coaching Certification, an ICF-accredited course for therapists, practitioners, and healers to bring the nervous system into all of the good work that you're doing. We want to look a little bit at what impairs integration, right? And so we're really thinking about this impaired integration as a neuroplastic adaptation to threat. The brain is designed to adapt for survival. And if we're living in chronic stress or traumatic developmental environments, neuroplasticity begins to wire our system to prioritize protection over integration. Instead of building flexible connections between regions, the brain becomes highly efficient at defense. Patterns like hypervigilance, avoidance, shutdown become the default strategy. They're also less energy costly because they have been reinforced over time. And these are the strategies that kept us alive in the short term, but over time, they limit our access to regulation and to growth. And then also we have unprocessed emotions here. Unprocessed emotions add another layer of fragmentation. When our emotions aren't expressed or metabolized, they aren't available as information for action, and they continue to remain repressed as we have those patterns in our behavior. And that creates blind spots in our awareness. It keeps parts of the body-brain system offline, out of communication with one another. And so in this state, we don't lose the emotions themselves necessarily, especially if we are moving into repression, but we lose that access, that functional access to those emotions in a way that supports healthy processing and the integration of that emotional experience.
Trauma and chronic stress create fragmentation. This we know, that disconnection between the body and brain, between feeling and thinking. Early life experiences are ACE scores. Our chronic stress environments, it also creates inconsistent attachment, or trauma can wire the brain for hypervigilance, making integration harder later. Unresolved trauma and ongoing threat are repeated activation of survival circuits. The amygdala, the periaqueductal gray, builds a default pattern of fragmented processing. I really wanted to take a moment too in this conversation to talk about peak somatic experiences like psilocybin or somatic breath work, because they're actually measured. Emotional breakthroughs are measured in these experiences. And just a reminder that that's why these practices are risky, because without proper preparation, if there is fragmentation, dissociation, low interoceptive skill, and weak network integration, dropping into a huge state change can overwhelm the system's predictive model. In the moment, it can feel hard to feel these sensations accurately, too much, or strangely numb, and afterward, the brain may misencode the experience, bypassing the parts that needed processing or reinforcing helplessness. Big emotion without integration often becomes a story without change. Prediction errors don't reconsolidate into safety and choice. They can reconsolidate into more avoidance, more dissociation, and a narrower window for future processing. Intensity does not equal integration. And without proper preparation and real-time interoceptive capacity, peak experiences can outpace the system and get filed as threat and bypass entirely. Integration is what lets insight land as behavior and behavior change, right? Signal quality and context are the answer, not more intensity.
Mm-hmm. That's very true.
So what would it look like if someone went through a peak somatic experience or a plant medicine experience like you just talked about, and they weren't able to integrate?
Well, I can tell you what one of the biggest issues is. Number one, they might not be feeling like anything happened, right? They don't feel the medicine, especially like a lot of journeyers and psilocybin experiences are somatic journeyers. They actually don't have any visuals. And so in the case of like, I didn't feel anything, we're back to languaging that looks like, it doesn't work for me. I can't heal. Healing doesn't work for me. And when you've added a serotonergic medicine that has this big boost of neuroplasticity to it, right? What we do, we get better at. Now we've added a boost of that into the space where someone doesn't believe that they're healable, right? So it just kind of makes a well-worn path that you're trying to get into a new path of even more myelinated.
Makes it even stronger.
And that's really dangerous because a lot of people who don't have support and don't prepare for peak experiences have a lot of suicidal ideation afterwards. And then we're actually moving into a worse state of being than what we came in here to start with the first time.
I think what you touched on about the somatic experience only, and we've talked about this before in here, but it can be so confusing for people who aren't used to feeling, interpreting, understanding the signals from inside of their body. They don't have any visuals. It's fully just a knowing, a felt sense from the body, the message that's trying to come through. And if you have no experience dropping into your body, feeling that, it's very overwhelming.
Very
and
overwhelming.
very confusing. And you feel a little bit lost, I think, a lot of times on the back end of that.
Yeah. On the back end, having known people who've gone through that, it's described sometimes as like, I lost my footing. I'm lost in my life. I don't have an anchor point. I don't know where or what grounded feels like. I don't know what reality feels like. And it can be really dangerous.
It's really distorting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can get those big experiences if we don't have regulation and ability to fluidly move between these states. I think you can also come out in a very deep, big emotional place that you can't find your way out of, like with the suicidal ideation, the depression that sometimes follows.
And there's no support. A lot of times people go to these centers and they have no support. People don't actually understand what integration is. And like we've said it so many times on here, we're talking about integration. We're like in the brain integration, and that leads to a better integration already because the system is already kind of firing and wiring more completely, might be the word. Yeah. And when people don't have a visual, that throws them off really because that's the expectation. Yeah. When you don't have the visual and you don't trust your body, how can you trust your experience?
Yeah.
How can you trust what the body is actually saying to you?
Yeah.
If this conversation helped you see emotional regulation in a new light, please take a moment to subscribe to our audio channels, and you can watch us now on YouTube. Subscribe to Trauma Rewired and share this episode with someone who's ready to reconnect with themselves. When you share, rate, and review this podcast, you help us bring these powerful body-based tools to more people who need them, and we're really so grateful to be on this journey with you.